guys, and welcome back to yet another episode. So, let me just give you a quick update on my life. And it's not a pretty one, honestly. My temper has been on the edge to explode the whole fucking day. Why? What happened? I have been dealing with technology and it keeps on failing on me. I have not been a victim of internet bullying. I have been a victim of hardware bullying, which is the definition of saved documents that suddenly disappears and problems with uploading and converting files. And you know when these situations tend to happen? When you have a deadline. And always when you have a deadline that's out of your control. It feels like technical devices can sense our fear and decides to make our nightmares come true in the worst possible scenarios. So, I have this written piece that is about to be published in a health science magazine, but I don't have a degree in journalism and my grammar is not always on point. So, the editor asked me to find someone to go through all of my grammatical mistakes. I'm good with words, but not so much commas. And my best friend's mom has done an absolute killer job by correcting all of the minor mistakes I have made. But now we have been stuck for more than a week in regards to convert the 2.0 version of my written piece from her computer to mine. Whew. Oh my god. So yeah, but it seems like we might have found a way to sort it out now, and hopefully it will happen later today. Fingers crossed. And as soon as it has been sorted out, I can put my anxiety to rest. Or will, I should say worries. I can put my worries to rest. Because you know what? Anxiety is a really, really strong and serious word, and we use it way too often in our daily life. We use the word as was it a common and superficial thing. We use the word anxiety as was it butter spread on a burnt piece of toast, and we shouldn't. We really shouldn't. It can ruin one's life and well being completely if one's anxiety gets out of control. And I know what I'm talking about. I have been dealing with a severe level of anxiety for around 19 years, and I feel terrible for everyone dealing with those unpleasant commands from their brain. It was not until I got the peace, quiet, and support from my surroundings in my adult years that I managed to look within and face all the hidden traumas that caused my anxiety to fire up. And maybe you have anxiety. Or maybe you have a friend, a sibling, or a partner with anxiety and don't quite get what it's all about. If you're the last mentioned, you might have a hard time figuring out how to deal with their panic attacks or finding it hard to be supportive when you don't understand what is going on in their mind, as it seems silly and made up. And it is indeed made up, but in a scientific and logical way. So, are you ready for today's topic? Because we are about to dive into the terrifying world of anxiety. I hope you're ready to broaden your knowledge. First of all, before we head into it, I'm not an educated psychologist. Please always reach out to skilled professionals if dealing with severe or life threatening thoughts or behaviors. I can only speak from my own experience of dealing with 19 years of anxiety, OCD, and from listening courses. Let's start from the very beginning. Be aware it's a very complex topic that I'm simplifying with analogies to make it digestible. Your body is the most amazing thing in the whole wide world. Its only mission is to keep you safe and alive. And it's ready to do whatever it takes to make sure you will survive every single day. Your body has an inbuilt bodyguard, and he's on his toes all the time without you even noticing. He saves small snapshots of everything you're doing while you're awake, a full time stalker. The brewed coffee you spilled all over yourself, the unpaid bills you cried about, and the presentation at work when none of your colleagues gave you an applause afterwards. Your bodyguard takes his job very seriously and he took notice of it all. He especially loves to keep track on the bad experiences. He then saves all of the pictures of potential threats and stack them up in a folder called All the Possible Ways You Could Die. Your bodyguard can be very dramatic, but better safe than sorry. When someone is dealing with anxiety, their personal bodyguard is a little bit more sensitive. Not because they are weaker than anyone else's bodyguard, but they have been put through a constant and major kind of trauma. It makes the bodyguard even more alert as his most important job is still to keep you safe and alive. Try to imagine the bodyguard failed at his last job. He did not manage to protect the celebrity, you, from a bullet. He failed to protect you, and now he's ramping up the security around you to prove he's worthy of his job, to keep you safe. It's here it all becomes a physical and very real struggle that's far from made up. When the bodyguard now senses just a minor sense of a repeated danger, it will start a chemical chain reaction in your brain saying, Protect now. And in a split second, he communicates with you not by phone, but by symptoms. Symptoms that will indicate danger and that you are possibly going to die in a bit. Without your bodyguard is 100% sure whether you will die or not, it's still better to be safe than sorry. And then you get the unpleasant feels of a racing pulse, sweating, panicking, struggling to breathe, screaming, crying. When these symptoms appear, it's the masterpiece of a bodyguard who wants you to flee from the danger. Unfortunately, the danger is not necessarily a danger to anyone, but the ones suffering from anxiety. Anxiety is therefore a personal program danger that might seem silly to everyone else. Please remember, anxiety has become a more and more common thing to suffer from. It grew rapidly along with the pandemic. Don't ever categorize yourself as mentally ill. You have been through something that triggers your body. Is its way to love you as it tries to keep you safe. Dealing with anxiety is a long, hard, and uncomfortable battle, but we are able to learn how to control and dim it. Unfortunately, we cannot turn it off 100% because it is a survival function which we are all born with. Our ancestors had it as well. Back then, it helped them to flee from dangerous animals. Even though I have overcome most of my anxiety, I still struggle now and then. The difference is that I have gained so much awareness about my triggers that I'm able to recognize them, which makes me able to do damage control straight away. Let me tell you a little story from my own life to visualize how anxiety can spiral out of control. Remember, anxiety is personalized, so other people might struggle with other kind of patterns of anxiety than I did. I don't want to be a mood killer, but I have seen way more deaths at the age of 25 than most people have at 40. It sucks, but it's a fact. I was only a kid when the very first domino breaks of cancer and diseases started to escalate in my family, and I therefore gained a real and very intense fear of dying early on. My bodyguard took snapshots of all the dying people around me, and it started to become very overprotective and were looking for things that could kill me. And trust me, a child's brain is full of imagination, also when it comes to pointing out threats. The very first anxiety trigger I had was birds. And not only the living creature, but feathers. I was a terrified, screaming wreck if a single fucking feather touched me. I would wash my hands with soap and I would scratch the soap into my skin to make sure it didn't have a single cell of bacteria on me. My poor child brain had detected the word bird flu in adult conversations, in the news, on the radio, and the bird flu then became the highest rated danger by my bodyguard. For the non anxiety crew, you might think it's just a simple fear, but not quite. One feather could build a spider web around everything in my life. As an example, if I, as a kid, had been outside and I stepped on a feather with my left foot, Everything my left shoe touched would now contain the dangerous bird flu bacteria. If I then stepped into the hallway in my parents' house, the floor would be contaminated with bird flu. If my mom then took the shoes and put them on the shoe stand, my mom would now have the bird flu on her hands. And if she then crushed her arms in front of her, her hands would have been close to her shirt, which now contained bird flu. If she wanted to hug me, I would scream and push her away, as she now would pass the bird flu on to me. My bodyguard had decided to create an anxiety that kind of left marks everywhere around me. And in the end, I could only and barely just sit on my bed. You know, the web of bacteria from the bird flu had become so major that I couldn't touch anything without it having the power to kill me. It was back then where anxiety wasn't that well known and people thought I was absolutely insane. No one had the knowledge to correlate my fear of dying to my dad getting a brain tumor. No one did that. But we know better today. We know that traumatic events can trigger anxiety and OCD like behaviors. I felt like this for 19 years on and off, and unfortunately, along the way, I became extremely skilled to adapt myself around my triggers instead of solving them. I would start to avoid my triggers, I would wash my hands all the time and wash all of my belongings. And if I couldn't wash them, I would simply throw them out. I was very lucky though that I had free access to professional help when I was in middle school, which made my anxiety settle a little bit. All up until my dad then died. When I lost my dad, my anxiety crawled out of its grave and backfired itself into my consciousness. The traumatic event ripped up all of my old wounds. And I'm pretty sure you have guessed what happened already. The return of the dark fright. My bodyguard. He came back from a short retirement and started to freak out like a little bitch. And the first thing he decided to do on his first day back at work was to dig up my past by looking in the dusty archive of prior fears. And of course, my bodyguard stumbled across birds and feathers. But he also knew that I have learned how to control this one specific trigger once. So, what did he do? He spiced it up. I promise you, he would not risk a zero reaction from me. The situation with my dad was rated a Navy SEAL, FBI, NATO leveled mission. So my prior anxiety for birds simply turned into something else. Chemicals, cardiac arrest, soap, gasoline, the ground, dirt, food poisoning, raw meat, the sole on the shoes, acids, everything, dirty and all, pet paw, sirens, hospital, specific sounds, concussions, expiration dates on food, socks, my feet, nail polish remover, other people touching me, cars, dishwasher, rinse, reading about something violent, jackets, and I have been absolutely terrified about everything. I was terrified about everything. It sounds ridiculous, but one of the most prevalent fears was actually raw fucking chicken. Not a living bird and not feather this time, but a dead fucking bird without any feathers. And I might have lost everyone who has never tried to be backstabbed by their nervous system. If you are thinking, what is this freak show? I thought you could normalize anxiety, not make it even more fucked up. Stay with me, I will get to it. So, the night I lost my dad, I had a flu and I was throwing up like a fucking waterfall, which, of course, my bodyguard took notice of. He noticed all of the nasty stomach acid that burned up my whole throat while my dad was about to die. But still, why raw chicken? Why was raw chicken the most prominent fear? Hear me out. When my bodyguard decided to spice up my anxiety, he also made a little calculation called anxiety math. And it goes like this. Oopsie, sorry. If you get food poisoning, you throw up. If you throw up, you are sick. If you are sick, you are going to die. Equals Raw chicken might contain salmonella and will make you throw up and then you will die. Makes sense, right? So logical, obviously. Not. It should be very clear by now how anxiety can spiral and cause a human jail for the ones suffering with anxiety. All we want is to make up bodyguards, smoke a spliff, and take a fucking chill pill to a happy place. Don't do drugs. But yeah, you get what I mean. Anxiety is a little bit messed up and a very unpleasant way of your body to show love and protection. If you are struggling with anxiety, please be kind toward yourself, but brave enough to stick up for yourself and wanting to control it. If you are someone who has a special someone dealing with anxiety, do your very best not to judge, because it is a physical surviving mechanism in their brain that is firing up. Instead of taking a distance and getting annoyed, try to have a sit down with your friend and let them explain the anxiety to you. Let them put words into it. And if you're the one with anxiety, be open about it, but don't force people around you to reorganize their whole lives to keep the anxiety away from you. In the end, you cannot run away from yourself, and the hard truth is that you have to deal with it at some point, either now or later. And when you decide to do so, you better have the most important people around you supporting and cheering on you. The most dangerous part about anxiety is when you start to accept its appearance and you build daily routines and rituals to keep it on a distance. You should not give away your power. You got this. You have it in you. And whether you're suffering yourself or have someone close to you who is suffering, put words into it and see if you can find common ground. When I was moving in with my chosen family, my anxiety was on fire. Like it was terrible. Really, really terrible. And my foster mom was a fucking angel. I did not have the money for a psychologist, and she helped me to manage my newly re exploded anxiety. As I mentioned, on and off. And this time it was really, really bad. And she helped me by doing her own things. She did not accept all of my demands that will have kept my triggers on a distance. She kept on living her life. If she wanted raw chicken, not raw chicken. She didn't eat chicken strips raw, but if she wanted to cook chicken fillets, she would do it, and I would either be in the kitchen at the same time watching her cooking it from a distance, or I would leave the room accepting the fact that she did cook it, and then came back when it wasn't raw anymore. Whether I liked it or not, she would cook raw chicken. I just had to face it and accept it. It was her house I lived in. And as time passed by, my brain started to see a pattern that she could handle raw chicken without dying, and therefore she made it less of a threat for me. She was somehow a lighthouse who could visualize that this is not dangerous. Suddenly, one day, I didn't have this urge to leave the kitchen every time she cooked this raw chicken, and I didn't have the urge to keep a distance of her either. My foster mom, she didn't change anything, and she definitely did not become a vegan. She kept on doing her thing. Meanwhile, I was exposing myself for my anxiety trigger by standing in the kitchen. She would also talk logic to me, not in a degrading way, but in an educating way, telling me the facts about why it wasn't dangerous to be near raw chicken. She was calm, supportive, and loving. She never neglected me for my anxiety. She just showed me love. And when my anxiety did rain off with me, cause it did happen, sometimes you just take a few steps back, and my foster mom would simply just be there. She would be completely calm, not judging me, but making me feel calm, asking me to take a few deep breaths and put my focus towards something else. And when I had cooled down, She would make me put words into what just happened. And then she normalized what has just happened, as if it has just been a bad dream, still not degrading. Sometimes it turned the whole situation around, but if my panic attack was a 10 out of 10, we just both agreed that today is over. I shouldn't achieve any more today or face any more struggles right now. And then I would take care of myself for the rest of the day by being easy on me. I would accept that my bodyguard had evacuated all common sense I had, and a good night of sleep would rewind it. The today is over rule really helped me a lot when my anxiety ran completely off with me. So it's a good strategy to try out if you are really, really up high in your anxiety and you really can't calm yourself and just today's over, go to bed, tomorrow is a new day. No one else can save you from anxiety but you. You are the one in control of your thoughts. But if you have someone around you, they can be the biggest support you can ever get. Yes, you have to solve it yourself, but the support is definitely a cheat code to facing your fears. And if you haven't done it already, you do yourself a huge favor by taking out some time for self reflection. I know you can do it. And if the self reflection is really hard to do on your own, please, 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 please reach out to someone skilled, a skilled professional. There's so many amazing people out there ready to help you. You are never alone, and you will always be able to make it better. You just have to do quite a lot of work sometimes. Mine was fucking bad, and I managed to find a way. There's always, always, always someone out there able to listen, to help, and to support. I hope you have gained a little bit more insight in how anxiety works and maybe found it useful. Please let me know if you have anything you would like me to chat about on the next pod. And thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Until next time, bye, stay safe.